I'm back again. Everything's plugged in. I'll just wait for you guys to join and we'll start again. So I've cleared everything my end. Now, like I said to you before, there's always a possibility that your devices need, sometimes when I see a video it says mute and you have to unmute it. Sometimes you have to make sure that the silence button on your thing is not switched off. You've got to switch it back on. Sometimes I have to log out, log back in again, and I have no idea. I'm not a technical guru, I just turn up. So I'm hoping that now we are live again and you can hear me and all is okay, but you're going to have to tell me. Hopefully it is. Now the other problem is, oh, everybody says much better, that's good. Thank God for that. I've had so many, yeah, right. Okay, good evening everybody. So nice of you to join me this evening on a Wednesday. Yes, I know I've repeat myself now. I know I've confused everybody by doing this on a Wednesday, but we go to Winchester tomorrow in the motorhome, and obviously I cannot take you with me, as much as I'd love to, but I can't. It's impossible. So the other thing to mention is that my John is watching football on Amazon Prime. Okay, it's a new thing with Amazon, and it means that he's got a huge proportion of the internet speed coming into the house. Now, some of you may have seen my Facebook Live from last night on my So With Lizzie page, and it was not a disaster because I tried to load all their comments and they wouldn't load. In actual fact, I had a bit of trouble this morning, so I think it's because there was over 900 comments. Maybe it just wasn't going to play nice anyway, so that's fine. So we accepted that, but hopefully it won't interfere with our connection, because I have to say we've had a good run, haven't we? Because the first month or two sometimes we lost connection, and I can't promise anything, and I'm rather hoping that John watching Amazon Prime football isn't going to muck it about. Anyway, it's a good test, isn't it? It's a good test. So hopefully the lighting is all okay. I've got my overheads on, I've got lighting coming in, so we're all okay. I don't have the overhead, but I have one at the side here, because you need to see some of these bits and pieces that I'm going to do, like the zips and all that sort of malarkey. And if I put the, Di said, it's still the same for me as before. It might be you, Di. I'm sorry, it might well be you, somehow or other. So Margaret says it's still very soft. Well, I know that I'm loud and clear at my end, and when we play this back, I'm sure you'll realise that I am loud and clear, and it's maybe something to do with your devices, and I can't fix it. I still can't fix it. I can't. As much as I would love to fiddle with your technology, I can't do it. So, yes, the overhead stuff. Now, what I found is that when I've got my runway lights on, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8 LEDs in my ceiling, so it's nice and bright for me when I'm working. When it comes to a Facebook Live and an overhead, my iPhone, it flickers, and it's awful. So I usually switch my runway lights off, which does the trick. But it doesn't get that really lovely light that sometimes works really well with working with a demonstration. Anyway, so but I have got this side camera here, so I'm hoping that will be enough, and I can hold things up and I can see how it looks on the screen here to make sure you're seeing everything properly. So Odell, my dear. So Odell is rather super. I'm rather pleased with Odell. Now you might want to make some alterations, because we're always clever in hindsight. You might want to narrow the handle here, although that's fine for me. It might not be for you. I did actually toy with the idea of putting a bow there, but then you'd have to hold it in your hand. I thought that's no good. And actually over time this would get really soft anyway, and because I've used foam, and even if you use wadding or batting, it's going to be nice and soft in your hand. And actually I quite like that it's a full hand grip that you're getting, because if you did put anything heavy in here, if you had a thin handle, it would cut into your hand, you know, make a mark. So it's quite nice to have that full width there. So with Adele, we've got the pockets that are on the inside. We've talked about this a couple of times already, but we've got the two pockets on the inside there. We've got the pocket on the outside with one zip, and we've got a pocket on the other side with two zips. Okay, we've talked about it, I think we talked about it last week. So you know what's coming up. We're doing the zippage. Now, for speed, I've already, let's put that somewhere. For speed, I've already done the single zip, and I've installed it only because it would take a lot of time, and it's a repetition of the double zip, if you like, although we're putting two sliders on. So I thought, well, I'll get that done. So I've done one side. Oops. Oh no, that's not. Oh phew, that's just fallen off. I've done one side with the zippage in, and there is a couple of ways of actually putting these in. I'm going to talk that through as we go along. So that's the single zip. Now, I did find when I cut this out, it could be me cutting it out, but I did find that my pocket was a little bit longer than my zip. The zip, I said, needed to end up being 11 inches with the tabs, okay, so bear that in mind. But my pocket ended up just a wee bit bigger. So I would want you to have a quick look at that as you install it, and we'll talk about it in more detail as I'm going through. So you know, looking at the pattern, if you've looked at it, you want two pieces that look like that. Where's my other bit? Over here. two pieces. Oh, I've left the lining over there. I'll have to go and get that. Two pieces that look like that for the front and back, and two pieces of plain, you know, the lining of the same shape. Mine's over there. I'm just going to pop over there and have a quick look. And while I'm doing that, you can admire my zippage. And I've also got something else I'm going to show you today, which is quite interesting. It's another sort of gadgety tool thing. Let's just swing myself back in here. There we go. And I purchased it today, yesterday. Lining, two pieces of lining. I put it over there to iron it, and I forgot, so I've got to iron that. It's a bit creased up, so we'll do that in a minute. Anyway, yes, so I've got another sort of gadgety tool that I bought, and I wanted to share that with you as well. Oh, I've got a security clearance on here now. Goodness gracious. So, anyway, so Kathy, I do hope you're okay with all of this. The main thing is to catch as much as you can. When you look back at this afterwards, it will be clear as a bell, I promise you. It's just how sometimes our technology works, and it's rubbish sometimes. So I've also cut the foam, and even though this is, oh gosh, what's it called again? I keep forgetting every time. Anyway, this stuff that I use, Legacy, thank you. Even though it's Legacy, I've cut it down by 1/4 of an inch all round, only because I really don't like the bulk of the foam in the seams. I really don't. So I know we've discussed this before about Bosal and all the rest of it, and really they're all doing the same job, and we mustn't get too hung up about it. So, like I say, I've installed that side, so we'll shove that over there just for the time being. I'm going to have to find another little something. Wear it. Well, that's what I was going to do. I was going to wear my Christmas thing. Never mind. So, I've also done the pocket for the inside because all the pockets are identical. And all we need to do with that is you're stitching right sides together. I'm going to do it now. Stitch right sides together, turn through, and I don't like to leave a turning gap because sometimes you can see that on an edge. So I tend to leave the whole top edge open, and then I fold it under about 1/4. Do 1/2 inch if you want to, if it's easier. And then just press that down and then top stitch. And actually I use my quilting tape, and we'll use that tonight so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to come out a little bit so you can see a bit more of my desk. I also fussy cut the fabric, so this is one of the pockets. This is the one for the inside where the butterfly is over to one side. And it's the same with the one that I just did, which I'll put somewhere over there, where the butterfly is right in the centre of the pocket. And you might want to look at that when you get your fabric, you know, when you're choosing your fabric, when you're cutting your fabric out. I know it sounds a little bit wasteful, but it's surely not, because you want to make yourself a really lovely bag. And whatever you just bumped fixed the sound. All right, okay. What did I bump? I don't know what I did. Anyway, so yes. So think about fussy cutting. Think about the fabric that you're going to get. This is like a cotton canvas, so it's really quite strong. And again, I just really fancied making a bag out of cotton canvas, but you could use quilting cotton. You can use tweeds, even a faux leather. It might be tricky in places, but faux leather is great. I wouldn't bother lining the pockets if you did that. But there's certainly so many gorgeous fabrics out there, and you just choose what pleases you. So to make, all three pockets are identical to start off with, okay? And the first thing we're going to do is right sides together. I haven't cut this very well. And we're going to stitch right sides together, and we're going to go all around the pocket. So all around here, all the way around and up there, okay? A quarter of an inch, do half an inch if you want that pocket a wee bit smaller. You decide. I'm quite happy with how it is, but you decide what you want to do. Right, so right sides together, and we're going for about a quarter of an inch. Dreadful cutting out. Do you know, I've never been very good at cutting out. Now do a back stitch, because this is going to go under pressure. Now I'm going to have a quick look to see if we can bring in this little baby. See if I get my computer out the way, and then you can see me going around, which is always terribly interesting. So I've done a little back stitch, and now I'm just going to go all the way around. Now what this means is, if you do your quarter inch or half inch, something like that, and cut back, it doesn't matter if you've cut this out well or not, just make sure that top seam is okay. I was a little bit rushed today. We had visitors over, which was lovely, but of course you kind of then just panic because you think, oh, I'm never going to get it done. And I wanted to do a little bit beforehand, otherwise we would be here all night. So from there, I'm going to just move that out of the way. With my pinking shears, I'm just going to trim all this back. And pinking shears really help to get that curved. Hello, John. Okay, get that curved. Oh, can you put the electric blanket on, love? Oh no, it's a bit mild, isn't it? Sorry, love. To get that lovely curved finish on your pocket. Or you can just leave it as it is and just snip in. That's entirely up to you. But I quite like the pinking shears for making a lovely neat job. My floor cleaning fairy is obviously going to be clearing up the mess that I put on the floor. I'll be bringing up the Dyson later. Just check to make sure that you caught all the seams around and about, and then you're just going to, so let me just show you what I've done. There we go, and that side as well. So all I'm going to do is turn that through. So far, so good. Actually, I have to say, although the bag looks quite complicated with all the zips and everything, it is quite an easy make, she says. I know it's easy for me to say, but it is fairly easy. And I know it always is helpful to see me make it up, isn't it? Warts and all, as they say. Reminds me of a comment I got on one of the videos today, and it was for a tutorial, and it was taken from a Facebook Live. I can't remember which pattern it was that we were doing, because it's your fault as well. And it was, the comment was something like, chat, 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 chat. Yeah, Facebook Live. That's what happens. That's what happens on a Facebook Live. Oh dear me. You have to have thick skin, I tell you. I'm not moaning, and I you know, I'm not really, but some days you think, gosh, please, just give me a break. Anyway, but you're all lovely. You're all lovely. I'll have to show you in a minute what Anne sent me, because Anne sent me the most beautiful gift. Anne Hill. Hope you're watching tonight, Anne. Right, so I'm just going to press this out. Now, the best way I can get this to be fairly neat, because if you don't press this right, on the pocket side, you'll end up with like, almost like a red tape, you know, like it is if you put piping in. So we don't really want that effect. So I always bring up the straight edges right, you know, so they meet each other really neatly. And by doing that and holding it, by the time I've ironed that out, that should be a really nice curve. And obviously if you want to steam this so it sits nice, steam it. But just it's quite a good tip to actually make sure that you've got that top edge lined up, and then just push the seam. It's not, you're pushing the fabric away from you, and that usually does the trick. So there we are. So there's the top of our pocket. So now all I'm going to do is the 1/4 inch thereabouts, I'm not measuring, the turn under. Now you could do this before you turn through, and actually I did that this afternoon and I found that to be a lot easier. But as I've already turned it through, I'll just do it as it is. So we'll start off with one side. Now I don't know if we'd be able to see it on this one, we'll try. There we go. So all I'm going to do on this is just sort of turn it in this way. And I'm just going to start off with a little bit, press it, I don't know if you can see that, press that down, and then that gives me a lovely crease. So I'm going to do it away from me, and then I'll show you what I've done. And then all you need to do is do exactly the same to the lining. So there we are. You can see I've just pressed that down. And don't get too hung up about the fold over and whether it's exactly 1/4 inch or exactly this or exactly that, because with this particular, can you see there, I've folded it over and given it a nice press. As long as you do the same with the lining as you do with the pocket, you know, the main fabric, then all should be well with the world. And it just makes your pocket about 1 millimetre smaller if you've done a little bit more than you thought. I don't think anybody's going to worry about that. So again, we'll just quickly do this. So like everything, you're going to take a little bit more time than me, because I'm going to try and get this done within the hour. I think we should be able to. And then, so look, you can see now that thereabouts I've got just over 1/4 inch turned over, the same with the top. And so all I'm going to do is just bring them together, and if it needs a little bit of adjustment, I think it probably does there, then you can do that before you top stitch it. And just bring those edges up together and just make sure they're lying nice and flat, nice and neat, because that's what you're going to stitch onto the zip. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. There's a zip. Oh dear. I'll get you all zipping very, very soon, I'm sure. So just make sure that's folding nice and flat on the ends there. And there you are, there you have it, not too bad at all. Now the great thing is, I'll just turn my iron down. The great thing about quilting tape, which is this little jobby here, is that we can actually cut this roughly to the length of the opening. And we can actually stick this down. There's no science about this. I'm going about 1/8 inch down from the top. You can go up to the top if you want. I haven't gone right to the end, that matters not. So I've put my tape on there, and all I'm going to do is lift this up. And all that's going to do, there we go, you can see the glue on there. All you're going to do is actually use that to actually stick your layers together, so you end up with a really nice neat finish. just started that a little bit too over to one side. But look, just bring your lining up to your main fabric and just literally you're just gluing them together. We'll not worry about that. I don't know why that's not lying flat. We'll tell it in a minute who's boss. Anyway, so we've glued those two pieces together, but that's we're going to actually then top stitch on the machine when we put the zip in. All right, so let's go. Let's just come out a little bit. There we go. That's a bit better. So I'm going to top stitch that, but not just yet. Okay, so there's a couple of jobs I want to do beforehand. You don't need to top stitch around the actual pocket itself, because you do that when you actually put it onto your bag. So let's just get this out of the way. Pop that to one side. Let's do the other pocket first. So this is the inside pocket. I need an iron again now. This is the lining. I've deliberately done it nice and bright so we can see. So this is the pocket that goes inside the bag, okay? So it's exactly what we just did. I glued my lining to my outer fabric, and I then actually top stitched that, because this is the pocket that doesn't have the zip, that's inside the bag, okay? So all I'm going to do, let's come out so you can see what I'm doing. So all I'm doing is, just make sure you can see, is I'm folding my pocket in half, and I'm going to give that an iron, okay? And all of these iron marks that we do with the bag will come out with the steam. So I'm giving myself a crease. Okay, you may see that one better, but that's the crease, okay? Now that crease is where we're going to top stitch that onto the bag, okay? Now this goes on the lining. So before we actually, I need to do the darts, but what I'm going to do is fold my bag in half, and I'm just going to crease that, because again that's exactly the middle of the bag, and I then can just match up, I don't know if you can see that, I'm just going to then match up the pocket crease to this crease, and then I know that's exactly in the middle. So the first thing I'm going to do now, I'll have to stop saying the first thing because it's about the 50th thing I've done now, isn't it? So the next thing I'm going to do is stitch my darts. Now this fabric doesn't matter whether it's right side or wrong side, because the actual pocket sits over the darts, so we need to make sure we stitch those first. So we'll just do the one for the moment. Obviously you're going to do both outer bag darts and both lining darts, okay? And again, just match those up, pop this under the machine and just stitch those darts. So you're starting from the outer edge coming into the point or into the bag. That's an easiest way to do a dart. Just neaten off my being good. But it's just neaten off. So there we are. So that's your darts done. So it gives you quite a nice shape. Some of that you lose when you put the foam in. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about this. That's how it should be. So with the zip, when we do the zips on the front and the back of the bag, you need to measure down, I think it's 9 1/4 inches from the top of the unstitched handle down, and I'll show you as I do it. And 9 1/4 inches down here is where you stitch the zip down when you've made that. It's the sort of the final part of putting the pocket onto the bag. But with this pocket, it really doesn't matter as long as you get it in a decent position. So don't forget, what we're doing is, oh, that's the wrong one. Looking for the crease. You're looking for your crease, and you're marrying that up to your bag. So I'll still cover my darts like it is on the outside, but I'm going to show you what I've done in a second. In fact, let me put you on this one here. So if you can see that, there's my there's the crease for my bag, I can just about see it, and there's the crease for my pocket. Now you must obviously get it straight, so what you could do is you could measure here to make sure you've got that on straight, so it's the same both sides, and then just give it a pin. Now because you're placing the pocket over, you've made it, look, you've almost made a dish with the darts, so you've got to be careful about your fabric, and I would pin every couple of inches to make sure that it's sitting exactly where you want it to be, because it's weird actually stitching onto a piece that's kind of shaped, it really is, and you could, if you're not careful, pucker all your fabric at the corner here. Okay, so just be aware of making sure that sits really nicely onto your fabric. And then literally we're just going to top stitch that in place. So again, just move that fabric out, pop a pin in, and I mean if you want to, pop a pin in every inch or so, you know, just to make sure that all that fabric is laying flat. And when I turn this over, you'll see exactly what I mean by that. So when we turn it this way, what you want to make sure is that you haven't got that puckered anywhere, and I think it'll be fine because I haven't ironed that dart out, so I think it will be fine there. But that's something that you need to be aware of. So it's just got a little pucker there, so I'm just going to have a quick look at that. Just make sure that it's laying flat. You kind of have to push the fabric into the grooves. I think that's going to be all right now. So there's the pocket actually pinned on. And so all I'm going to do now is to start stitching from here all the way up to here, and just do a nice back stitch to secure it, because it's going to take, you know, all your paraphernalia, your phone and perhaps your purse even. Now like I say, I've stitched right down the centre as well, which gives you a really nice double pocket. So you can do that, or you can leave it just as just one pocket. I suppose it depends what you're going to use it for, doesn't it? So again, just push that through. With the canvas, it's not thick, but it's my machine struggles where all those seams are, and it shouldn't do. It shouldn't, but it does. So just give that a little helping hand. And of course, if you've got a bulky seam made again, then again, that's where you need to get it out and use that to go over that little sort of difficult area, I suppose. So let's just go all the way around here. So have you all done your button exchange now? Because I've got a feeling that Diana will be chasing us all up and asking, you know, where are pictures? Where's all your buttons that you've received if you were part of the button exchange? Hello, Millie. So if you've had your buttons and you haven't posted a picture yet, can you do that over the next couple of days, and then we can all admire your buttons? And some of the history is fascinating, isn't it? In actual fact, I sent mine off to Paula and totally forgot to put a letter in there with the history and what all those meant to me. And I will do it. Right, so what I've done now is I've gone all the way around, and now I'm going straight up the centre. I'll show you in a sec. And I'm using my crease line as my guide. Making sure everything is nice and flat. Coming right up to the top, over the edge. Go over the edge and then do a lovely back stitch so it's really strong. I've probably done one stitch too many, but that'll be okay. This is for me. This is going to Winchester with me tomorrow, and I shall be telling the ladies how lovely you all are and what they're missing out on. And what a good time we have listening to me waffle on. So let's have a look. And the other thing, it's a little puckered there, but I think I can get away with that. So let's show you on this camera here. So there we are. So you don't forget, this is a really, it's not ever so shaped, but it is shaped, and it could be a tricky one to sort of stitch this pocket onto. It's obviously not going to lie straight because of the darts there, but you can get the idea of how that looks. If I can hold it straight, of how that looks once it's top stitched. And then if we go further along into the middle, you can see the centre, you can see how the creases have lined up nicely, and that's made me two really nice pockets. And it's quite nice that I've got a butterfly on one and not on the other, which, you know, it all adds to the interest. So that's the next stage. So we've done the outside, one of the zips, but I know you haven't seen that, but I'm going to absolutely repeat it now of how to do that. And we've done the lining, which is great. So I used to have a table here, and John moved it the other day. I blame John. But he moved it the other day, and I'm pretty lost without it. So, zippage. Now, you've seen me put a double zip on. I'm going to come down here again because this is something you all need to. I don't know if I can zoom in with this. This is the camera that I can't zoom in on, but I'll try to get it a little bit better on my desk. I don't know. I think that'll have to do. So I've already made my zippage up. Now you really don't have to do a double zip, okay? It just happens to be on the pattern, and it is quite nice to do. If you do a double zip, cut yourself a longer piece. Now I know I always use zip on a roll, and I know Zoe was asking about zips the other day, and of course I just assume everybody uses zip on a roll, and of course they don't. But I tend to, because it gives me a little bit more versatility. So I think it's possibly worth the investment. Anyway, I thought I'd run through this putting a zip on again. Putting a double zip on is just a repeat of, I've got a lime green zip slider here, just so you can see. So putting the other zip on the other end is just a repeat of this, okay? So to put one slider on, so for instance we could put that lime green slider onto this red zip, and the first thing we need to do is to put obviously the slider on. So it's the, I always call it, it's like a little sort of a snake head, but the wider part with the wider gap. Let me show you. So this is the let me have a look. This is the wider end here, okay, where the hole is quite big. Yeah, this end you can see quite clearly that's hole. That's the first bit you put on, okay. Now that's really easy to do. You'll not struggle with that at all, okay. So you can just look, you can see I just popped that on really easily, and if you want me to do it again, I will. So you literally, I've just got hold of the end of the zip just to keep it stable. And all I'm doing is just popping it onto the end of my zip, okay? And that goes on really easily. There we go. Just super easy. But the second one is always it's not always difficult. It's a little bit more technically challenging. Let's put it that way. I'll get it round for you. There you go. Now you can see. Now I won't be able to do this so you can see it. So I'm going to try my best to do it at an angle. So we want to put the second one on, right? Let me turn like this, that's a little bit better. And to get the second one on, you need to cut this bit of zip. So let me just do that. So the second one is cut with a little V out of the top. Can you see that okay? All right, you've got a little V cut out the top. I'm trying to strain this out, trying to see. And because of that, you can get that zip in so far, look. And it will actually click if you hear it. I can hear it, you may not have done. And then all you've got to do is grab both those ends and pull that slider down. See if I can do that at this angle. There we go. So, but the main thing is try and get this to be level with that. If you can't, please don't lose sleep about it. And this is why I said if you're doing a double zip, you want to cut it longer, because in case if you doesn't quite match up like mine's done, then you've got the option now to trim that away. And I'd only trim, I'll show you, might as well do it. I'll trim like that, okay? Because when we put this in the zip tab now, we want at least 1/4 of an inch. I went off there because my mum just phoned me. So I'll wait for you to tell me if I'm still live, and if I'm still live I'll carry on, and if not, it looks like I might have to start again. And I'll just wait till somebody tells me. I think, I don't know if I am or I'm not. I'll just wait to see what happens. If I lose it on my Facebook page, then I know it's been interrupted. But if not, I might be carrying on. Is it possible that somebody could tell me if I'm still live? It's ticking up on my screen. Still live. Oh, yippee! I'm frozen on my main screen. I can see that I'm frozen on my main screen. But that one seems to be okay. The other one seems to be frozen. So I don't know quite what to do about that. Just bear with. Let's just see if I can do that. Oh man. Now, I don't know if I'm live or not really. I'm just waiting now just to see. Oh, it's gone blank. But I'll just wait and see what happens. Karen says she can hear me and she can see me. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes to see if it comes up on my screen. And see what happens. I'm not sure. I'll just message my mum to tell her not to. Oh, I think I'm live. Right, just bear with while I message my mum. Oh, got an itchy nose now. Honestly, can't make it up really, can you? Right, on Facebook Live, do not call. Right, I think we're there, guys. Oh, I've got an itchy nose now. Does that mean I'm coming into money? Right. I think we got to the point of putting the zippage in. So if I go back to this one, we put the zip in, didn't we? And I trimmed off the end, because like I said, when you put the zip slider on, you want to have at least 1/4 of an inch. Thank you, Susie. You want at least 1/4 of an inch there for when you put the zip tab on, okay? But hopefully you caught all of that. It's not difficult, I promise you. It's just a case of remembering how to remember to cut that little triangle off there, okay? I know, Jackie, I know I just confused her. She hasn't read the message yet, so hope she doesn't call me again. But she might even join the Facebook Live. Anyway, yes, I have confused her. It's my fault. So, so like I said, if you're going to do the double zip and you do this little cutty out bit there to put your sliders on. I've put 2 sliders on. You don't have to put 2 sliders on. You just obviously put one from the other end, and I never seem to get them super straight. Oh, hi Tiffany, it's 7 a.m. Oh my gosh. No, is that 7 a.m? That's 7 a.m. tomorrow, isn't it? Oh gosh, I'll be nearly in the motorhome by then. Lovely for you to join us. That's fantastic. Yes, so cut it longer, because if you do that little V there, you'll need to snip that off, and I've deliberately left that like that so you can see what that looks like, and because I'm going to have to trim it. So on the instructions I say your zip should be, what did I say, 9.5 I think. At the end of the day you want the zip to end up being 11 inches or thereabouts. And just sort of, you could just sort of measure it with your pocket just to make sure. When you put the zip tabs on, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to bring this camera down and show you, these tabs add an extra inch to your zip, okay? So just bear that in mind, because they're 2.5 inch squares. You're going to turn over a real scant 1/4 inch. I'm just going to show you here because that's so much easier. You're going to turn over a scant 1/4 inch, look, and it's, I mean that's not I don't think that's very scant, but never mind. You're going to turn over a scant 1/4 inch this side, and the same again on the other side, and that's what gets caught in the zip. So the end of your zip, let's do it that end, it's easier. It just literally gets caught in by 1/4 inch. I mean, it really is quite a small amount. Now I've found that using quilter's tape holds all that together. That you're then going to bring the top over, and you're going to top stitch the two together. Okay, so I'll do that now, and before I actually do the other end and top stitch it down, I'm going to measure it with my pocket. So let's just move that, do it so it's a little bit of a better angle, to be honest. I'm not sure I'm succeeding, but anyway. So get your quilter set. Now look, I really do recommend you do this, because it really does help you with your stitching. So a little bit of quilter's tape right at the very end of your zip. I mean, seriously, right at the end. And then on the back of it as well. Because what you're going to do is you're going to literally glue the end of your zip into your zip tab. Okay, so I've got a bit of tape that side, a bit of tape that side, and I'm just going to peel the back off. So just use your thumbnails just to squidge that down so it takes the backing off. Look, there's the glue, and then on this side again just peel that away, and there's the glue. All right, so there's my zip tab here. So all I'm going to do is lay one piece on the 1/4 inch folded over piece that way. Let me show you. Right, got it? And then I'm going to bring this one over and glue that one down. So again, 1/4 inch. Everything is a 1/4 inch. The zip is in there, encased in there, 1/4 inch, and so is the turnovers. Okay. Now I know that's enormous, but when we stitch, we're going to stitch from here across here. It's far easier to do that than try and stitch on the very edge here across to the very edge there. So you're starting here and you're zooming across, and then we're going to trim to fit. Okay, makes absolute sense to do that. So if I do that on my machine now, I'll do it while you're still in that position. And you could give this a little iron if you want. Of course, this does not have to be right in the middle of your zip. It can be to one side, it doesn't matter, because you're going to trim it all off. But far better to do this. Now look, have a look at that. So you can see that it's a lovely top stitch, and you can see where I started and stopped. But of course now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim that away. You might want to just sort of draw the line. You want to make sure it's nice and straight and not too bad at this angle. So now you can see that I've actually trimmed it off completely, and that's going to be the end of my zip. So we're now going to do the same for the other end, but before we do that, I just want to make sure that it's going to sit well on my pocket that's going to have the zip. So I'm going to offer up my zip on one end. I'll show you in a sec. I'm going to offer up my zip on the other end. It's a little bit too long, my zip, so, and I did say to you I cut this quite long, so I'm going to trim about half an inch away. I cut, probably the zip was about, I don't know, when I started off about 11 and a half, 12 inches, because I wanted to allow for that, for the V. Okay, so I'm just going to trim it back a bit more, and I'm just offering it up to my pocket, so I'm going end to end. That's perfectly fine. I want you to have a quick look at this. So there we go. So my zip tab is coming right up to the end of my pocket there, which is really how I'd like it to be. And on this end, I haven't got my zip tab on there, look. But I'm just going to do it now. So let's just move that away for the moment. Well, no, I'll tell you what, I'll keep that there and then we can see what we're doing. So I'm just going to put a piece of tape across here. Actually, this is good for holding your zip ends in place, especially as this zip is actually open here. If I hold it up, you can see that it's actually open just there. Put a piece of tape on the other side, like I did just before. And all of this, although you might think it's a bit of a faff, it really is a lovely, lovely, easy way and efficient way, if you like, of putting in a zip. It takes a lot of fear away because you're holding everything in place. So I'm trying to get my tape backing off. You're holding everything in place while you're putting the zip in. So there's my glue. And I wonder if Mum's joined. And there's my glue there. So again, I'm just going to put my zip down, measuring everything. Look, my zip tab is perfect this end, and now I'm bringing my tab in, and I think it's going to be a little bit too big, but I can fold more zip in than I need to. So if I'm not sure you can see, it's so difficult to do this, no idea. So I'm literally just gluing one of the zip ends down, and then all I'm doing is bringing this side over, and I'm just literally offering it up, and that's not bad. Time it's pressed. Do you see how that fits beautifully? So that is a good way of doing the zips, to make sure that you've got it in the right place. So again, all I'm going to do there is top stitch like I did before and trim back. So we'll go to a little bit more of an interesting picture. Just have a little slurp while I'm here, actually. Right. So again, just top stitch. So you start a little way off and just top stitch over the top of your zip. Because we're using zip on a roll, this particular one is nylon, and it shouldn't break needles or cause you any problems. I did do it the other day on my overlock, and I broke a needle on my overlock, but it does go a bit fast and wild. So there we are, and that's the tab on. So now I'm going to do is just trim that. There we go. And so we've got lovely 2 zip tabs beautifully positioned on our zip, either end of the zippage, okay, with the double zip in the middle. There we go. So the next thing we want to do is to attach this to our pocket. This is so super easy, guys, come on. So what you're going to do, I'm getting bully tonight, aren't I? Use your quilting tape. And all we're going to do is on the edge, so I'll show you, I'll do it and then I'll show you. On the edge of your zip, I want you to put your tape and get it so it's well glued down. So you want to press it, take it right up to the end, right up to the end of the tabs. There we go. I'm thinking, is that right? Yeah. It's okay, so that's right on the end. Peel the backing away so it leaves your glue strip. Floor Fairy's going to sweep that up later. Glue strip. And then all you're going to do is stick your pocket on. Now we haven't top stitched this yet, and I've left that deliberately because the top stitch is going to stitch, neaten off the pocket and stitch the zip at the same time. So all you're going to do is literally lay your pocket along the edge of your zip like so. And that glues, it doesn't glue all of it together, but it will glue the lining, and of course you've glued those pocket pieces together. So there we go. Let me show you. You're going to stitch it. Don't think you got away with it. Anyway, so look, here we go. If I show you, so literally I have glued that in place. Okay, so all we've got to do now is top stitch that. I don't know if it any helps at all if you see along, could be a bit straighter, like the butterfly in the middle. So change to your zipper foot because it really does help you get close to your zip. The actual ordinary foot, you know what I'm looking for, don't you? A zipper foot. The ordinary zipper foot will push against the teeth of the zip, and it will push your stitches out. And although that's not too bad, but what it means is that you'll have quite sorry, my hair's getting in my way. What you'll have is your top stitch will be further away from the edge of your pocket, and that's better to get closer if you can. So we'll use the zipper foot. So I want to push my needle right over to the right, and so this is where you might, I'm going to just make sure that's lying flat because this is the end that wasn't lying flat. You might find those first few stitches it will say no, I'm not doing it, no I'm not doing it, I refuse, point blank. So I would start, let's just show you, I would start just a few stitches in. Now I know you probably can't see that. If I move it like that, so I'm about 1/4 of an inch in from the end, okay, and that's where I'm going to start, and then I'll go back. So make sure your threads are out of the way, we don't want a bird's nest. I'm going to go forward a little bit. Let me just get that thread out of the way. There we go. So I'm going forward a little bit, but then I'm going to go back. And it's much happier doing that, and even now it's catching. This machine, I'll tell you what it is, it's the zipper foot. I've got a very, very narrow zipper foot, and it doesn't like it. It doesn't like it. So now I'm just top stitching along there. Everything is glued in place, so there's no worries. If you get to the zip and you want to, in fact, I think I can go zooming past those zipper feet. If you have to move, then try and keep your needle in the fabric, because that keeps everything secure. It's almost like you're using it as a gluing gun or a pin. So look, top stitching beautifully across there, and it should give it a little help. Go right up to the end. There we go. Back stitch again. That's enough. That'll do. So that's the zip installed on one bit. So you can see why I did that other one in advance, can't you? Because they're a little bit time consuming, but so worth it. It looks really nice when you're done. Trim all your threads away. Let's move that out of the way. So there's our zip installed on the top of the pocket. So that wasn't too difficult, was it? Was it? So, the first thing we need to do now, or the 50th thing we need to do now, we need to do the darts again. So right sides together. I mean, in truth, you could do those, oh, comfort. In truth, you could do those, you know, before you do any stitching at all, just to make sure that they're stitched and done, in case you forget. Because like I said, the pocket goes over the top of the dart. Okay, there's one. So you're we're just bringing those raw edges together and starting from the outside, you're coming in. There we go. So just take off my threads, try to be neat. Okay, so there's the darts done. So let's have a look. I'll probably have to come in close here, but I'll pin it first and then I'll tell you what I've done. So from the top edge here, this top edge here, you need to measure down 9¼ inches. Okay, so tape measure on the raw edge, 9¼ inches, which is just there. I'll show you in detail in a sec. So I've got my finger on. So what you're going to do is you're going to flip this pocket. So at the moment that pocket is right sides facing me, okay? But we're going to flip it so that the edge of the zip is in line with that 9¼ inch mark, okay? So I'm literally going to flip that over, and just where my finger is, and I'll measure it again in a minute, is now should be at 9¼ but we can measure it again now, but you've got it roughly in the right place. The other thing to remember, and I haven't done that, is to find the middle of your pocket and the middle of your bag again, because we're going to use that as a guide. Do you know what? I'm going to do it because I don't want this to be wrong. So it's worth doing that. And you can also, in the bag, you could do a little notch. In the pocket you can't, but it all helps line everything up, and it's such an easy, a little bit of a trick, isn't it, doing that. So just get that lovely and folded, and just get your iron in there and get yourself a nice crease. There we go, nice crease right down the centre. And again, do it with the pocket because this will all get pressed out when you've done. And again, a nice crease, just so you've got a visual. So let's pop that down there. So again, let's start again. So 9¼ inches, if you remember, let's do it again. 9¼ inches from that top piece down to here. So there's my line around about there, but we'll measure it again in a sec. Get the centre of my pocket and line it up. So you look how those crease marks, I'll show you in a sec, how those crease marks line up beautifully. I'm going to pop a pin in just to hold that in place just for the moment. So let me show you what I've done here. So I've measured down from this top bit here to here, okay, this piece here. So the edge of my, oh, I didn't go all the way through. So the edge of my zip, which is this part here, is 9¼ inches from there, okay? And I've got my crease lines in here, so I can marry those all up, and it looks beautiful. I'm going to get a different pin. And just get that in the middle. And while that's pinned in place, all the layers are pinned now, I'm just going to get my tape measure again. So line that up at the top, come down here, and it just wants to go up about 1/8 inch here. So I'm not quite at the 9¼ so I'm just going to move that up a little bit. There. I mean, this is not desperately crucial, but you don't want the pocket to come too far down here. You'll end up being about here when we flip it back again. So from here to there, we've got the edge of the zip now at 9¼ Okay, so that's all good. So now it's just a case of pinning this, sort of smoothing it out. You know you're in the middle, so you're going to pin all this. Now again, if you want to, you could use your quilter's tape and pin that all in place. But this is actually a really nice, quick way of installing the zip, and you haven't got any worries because everything's in the middle and you've measured everything up. And so don't fret about the zip closures being there, because we're going to scoot around them and we can move them. So now what you're going to do is you're actually just going to stitch right along here, and I actually stitch the width of my my zipper foot, so my stitch line is about here. And when you look at the zip, there's always like woven marks that you can follow, and just follow those woven marks along there. So let's quickly do that. Let's just come in. Oh, that's not going to come in this time either. So you can change back to the zipper foot again. And I realise we've gone over the hour, guys, but we're actually not far off now. I'm not far off, I'll be honest with you. So again, move that needle over to whichever side is easiest for you. A zipper width, so mine is quite a narrow one. It's probably about 1/4 of an inch actually. So about 1/4 of an inch from there. And we're going to just do a nice back stitch. Take your pins out as you go. And you're just guiding your presser foot, let's get that out of the way, along the zip edge. And I think, oh, if I can get those out of the way. I don't know if it's not easy when let's do it from this side. Might be easy. Just going to move those sliders out the way. So even though you've got a double slider on there, they will all move out of the way. Keep that nice and straight. You keep pulling it so it's nice and straight. And go all the way across. Do you know, I didn't measure to see if that was equal both sides. I'm hoping it is. I'm hoping it is. That's bad, isn't it? So, just trim my ends. It'll be difficult to see because this is like red stitch on red stitch, but there's the zipper installed and we've just stitched up here. Okay, so now when I flip it, when I flip the pocket, your zip is in place. Okay, so now there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can bring the edges of your pocket up and fold that over the top of your zip. Let me show you. So you can, so there it is flat, and that on my black one I have it flat. But you can actually bring this up and stitch from there, from each end. And when we look at it, do it like that, I'll see if I can pin it to hold it. You actually almost hide the zip. So I think this is going to be down to personal preference as to how you want it to look. So that's how it would look if you fold that pocket edge over. The other way, and it's always nice to have a few options, is to bring that pocket right down so you can see the zip, that it's nice and visible, and then stitch from here. Can you see? So you're stitching from here and then down your bag that way. Okay, it's up to you. You can do it either way. So what I'm going to do now, no, I can't zoom that in, sorry. What I'm going to do now is do what I did before, and that is pin this pocket within an inch of its life. And so it goes around those curves nicely. Like I say, you're dealing with something, you're putting something flat onto something that's 3D. And it'll say, I'm not going on there. It has to. Okay. That's not bad. It's not bad. Just make sure that this isn't puckered underneath. I mean, to be honest, you're not going to see it because it's going to be inside the bag. So let's try and quickly do this. So now what we're doing is we're top stitching all the way around the curved part of the pocket. We flipped it over. By all means iron it so it's lovely and straight and flat and neat. But now, because I've pinned it, I'm going to top stitch all the way around here to attach the pocket to my bag. It's not a brilliant job, I have to say, guys, but perhaps I won't take it to Winchester. They'll be scrutinising it, won't they? So let's just go around the corner. It's my fault, I could have done that a lot better. Anyway, so just, now again you might want to use your quilter's tape, but bear in mind that you don't really want to see that. I can't remember if this is wash away, but you can get wash away, and that's probably better, because you don't want to do it where you can see it. So be mindful of that. So again, we'll just get this there. And of course you could use some really nice thread when you're doing this. You could try on metallic, couldn't you? That would be nice. Put a bit of silver or gold on there. So again, round the corner. And I'm just kind of pulling the bottom layer, you know, the main bag, just so it's laying flat. There we go. Right up to the top. Back stitch again. It's not bad, could be a lot better, but there we are, it's life. Okay, so that's actually everything made, everything done. It's not too bad. Don't think it's wonky. Don't think we'll notice if it's wonky, but that is the double zip pocket on there, which is great. So the next thing you want to do is the darts in the foam. We're going to iron the foam onto the main bag. It's funny how this foam completely collapses in on its. Oh, have I done that right way around? I think so. Well, I'll have to test it. That's still on, isn't it? Let's test it. How can I test it? Put some on there. Put it on there. Not really matters, does it? Doesn't really matter. No, don't matter. No, of course it doesn't. Because we're not going to see it, are we? So it doesn't matter if the darts are facing the wrong side of the fabric or the other side, because it's all going to be lined. It's not, you can't, yes, this side is the glue. I think I'll do it that way. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She says. Oh, sorry guys. I'm getting travel weary now. I'm not travelled anywhere. Well, this would be a good one to look back on, won't it? Right, so what we need is the mat. And what we need is our two main bag pieces, which are here and here. And then we just need to iron these on. Pretty sure. Now I'm going to do it from the wrong side, or the right side. I'm going to start off that way anyway. Let's see if it works. Who knows? Oh, help if I had my iron up, right? I always worry about foam and the ironing part. Oh yeah, that's gluing now. Because you obviously don't want to melt it in any way, and I've got that on super hot. Let's turn that down a bit. Do you know what? I was going to tell you guys about this. That when I got this fabric out today to actually, and it's really lovely fabric, got it from the NEC. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, it's a big quilting show in Birmingham, and it had footprints all over it. What? I mean, I didn't notice that when I bought it. You think, footprints? What? It's my fabric. Oh dear, oh dear. Yep, No, so I don't think this is going to press that way. I'm going to persevere. You're going to have to bear with. And I think sometimes a steam iron helps. I don't know about you, and they all say don't use a steam iron, but actually I think the steam, it gets the heat through, doesn't it? So let's just make sure that's... See, I didn't want to stitch through, you know, putting the pockets on, I didn't want to stitch through all the foam and everything. I wanted to do that so it's nice and easy, because it's just making sure that you've glued this foam on nicely to our fabric. I think that'll do. Yes, so it had footprints all over it. You think, why? Soft, rough. It's not obvious, is it? With like some, you know, like Visaline and stuff like that, you can see it. And I'm not sure I can see it. I don't know if you've ever looked at it. So I'm gluing down as much as I can. Obviously when we do a finishing press, I don't think it's going to go through this pocket, but I could undo my zips. I didn't do that on the other one, but let's just give it a little bit of a go. Yeah, so obviously you're going to enjoy this much more than I ever do, because I always feel so rushed. And but it's good that you can see all these things from start to finish, because I know when you go to look at the videos afterwards, the Facebook Lives afterwards, I know that they're a great help. And it's a great reminder if you've made one and then you want to make a second one, they're a great reminder. There we go, that's not too bad, it's not too bad. By the time we've stitched it together, it'll be fine. And we'll give it a press. Right, so the next thing is to stitch the two straps at the top together on both the lining and the main bag. And again, just line that up, about 1/4 of an inch is fine. And straight across. Not quite got those lined up nicely, but okay. So straight across. I'll bring in my lining pieces. Oh, darts. Let's do darts. So it's a good idea, isn't it, to actually do those straight away. You've only got the 4 to do, but it's just a jolly nuisance when you, like at this stage, you realise you haven't done them. So again, let's do this dart. So going from the outside edge in. If there's anything you need to see in particular, will you let me know, make a comment, and then I can show you. But I just want to speed up now so we can get this finished in the next 10 minutes. So 2 darts done, smash in. So now I'm going to put the lining right sides together. Let's make sure, yep. So the lining is right sides together. We're going to stitch across the strap, that little short edge. Okay. Give that a little press. Let's do that. It'll take a moment. There we go. And the bag itself looks a bit ungainly now, doesn't it? There we go. Just cut those ends off. So now this is where you put both of those pieces right sides together. And you're going to stitch, and it's quite clear on the pattern actually, because I had a look at this the other day, that you're stitching around the 2 curves, so these inner curves here, you're stitching around there, on both sides, okay? So I'm going to pin it because we don't really want it to wriggle too much. So just, I've got a dodgy pin there. Let's get rid of it. So start so the edges are meeting. And just use your quilting clips if you want to. And all you're going to do is a nice back stitch to hold. Get those edges meeting up. There we go, smashing. So that's one side. Use it round. Do the other side. So, where are we? Wednesday. So it's a little way off, isn't it? But have you got any plans for the weekend? Are you doing anything? It's going to be mild, isn't it? We're here, Suffolk, down south. In the UK, it's going to be nice and mild. Well, 11 degrees, if you can call that mild. But that'd be nice. Be nice, especially because we're going near the seaside. Hopefully, we can get out and get the dog walked and have a nice time. So there we are. So I've pinned around my the funny little curves, and I'm just now going to stitch around both. Start with a good back stitch because we're going to turn these through, and that might take me a second to do that because of all that foam. So that's the time to be a little bit patient. About 1/4 inch seam allowance again. Just make your way around. Take your pins out as you go. Keep an eye on your seams, make sure you're catching everything. I don't know if that's lined up, we'll have a little look underneath. All the way around. I quite like using the foam. Well, it gives things a nice bit of structure. But it's very ungainly, isn't it, to sort of try to keep moving around. Gets caught up in things. Okay. Press back stitch. So we've done one side, so now we're doing the other. Start off with a back stitch again. You'll know why in a minute when I start to pull this all through. And I think by cutting that foam off a little bit, it does help. Not the best cutting in the world, but it is me after all. Not very good. I don't want to get a pucker there. Let's just stretch that out a little bit. See, again, this is where, you know what I'm going to say? Walking foot. And also flip into those curves. I won't today because I'm hoping I can get all this through without having to do that. Right, so you've got the pockets. Either I'm just trying to think which is the easiest to turn through. Maybe the pocket with a single. I don't think it really matters. But what you're going to do is you're going to grab one bit of this, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky because you've got to get all of this bolt now through. So I've got my hand in there, and I'm going to try and grab perhaps the lining. And of course you can use your hemostats to grab that. Here we go. I've got it. So once you get that lining, you can now begin to pull it all through. And it will take a little while because you've got all that foam that's coming through that small little gap. But you just got to, because that, I mean, if you think about it, that foam will really go down tiny, won't it? So it's not so bad. Probably, it might even be easier than wooding, I'm not sure. But it's just takes a little bit of time. Just keep easing it all through, pushing it through, helping it along. Let's get hold of it. This is where you've beautifully pressed your lining. Looks like a dish rag by the time you've taken it out. Let's just get that through there. Come on, come on. Come along, little bag. It's like everything, isn't it, when you're trying to do this quickly. Sit this way. Oh yes. Come along. This is where you need to make sure you've done your strong seams. You hear a sudden cracking sound. There we go. Let's get it through. It's not easy, but it will go. She says, thinking, I know I did this before, it's fine. It's just getting it through. Come on. Just have a little sing amongst yourselves. Done it. There we go. Whew. Right, it's turned through. So look, you want to give that a nice press now. Helen says where to buy the best foam from. Do you know, I think I got the last lot of, you know I get Legacy. The last lot of Legacy I actually got from eBay. But normally I get it, gosh, I'll try to remember the company and perhaps write it in the notes on the Facebook. So this is a good time to give this a press because we've actually had to turn it through and really sort of give it a hard time, if you like, is to now give that a nice little press. We're actually going to turn this slightly differently as how I've got it now, but we'll do this. I'll do it quite quickly, and then I'll show you what the next part is. Because it's easier to press this nicely while it's flat like this. Right, that'll do. That'll do. That'll do. That'll do. Right, last bit. Last bit. So now what you're going to do is bring these together. So although that looks a little bit ungainly, you're going to bring all this together and you end up with an oval. So that strap kind of goes in the middle. Let's get rid of that. And you want to bring, see your side seams here, you want to bring those together. So you're literally just turning the bag so your right side of your lining is on the right side of your lining. The right side of your bags are facing each other, okay? And you end up with like an oval to stitch. This is tricky to, probably clips would be better to be perfectly honest. Got some here. There we go. Yeah, so you're just now stitching an oval. So get your side seams met. So where your two pieces, when you open it up, so those two pieces are touching, those two seams are touching. That's fine. So the other thing, and obviously your handle is going to be kind of in the way a little bit, so just kind of tuck that out the way, fold it in on itself like that. And then that's how it should look. Okay, hopefully you got that. You just want to leave another turning gap here, just like you normally would. So I'm going to stitch it without any more pinning or clipping, because we want to get this done. So I'm going to start about, I don't know, an inch away from the dart, and then just come round my bag. So although it looks a bit weird, it actually makes a lot of sense. Just that last bit, you think, oh, don't get that. So have a look at that again. But as long as you're putting the right sides of your bags together, you'll be fine. And when you think how much you've done, oh my gosh, you've put all those zips in, you've got 3 pockets. So you're going all the way across your main fabric of your bag. Just check to make sure that all your layers are correctly sitting. Look, you know what? I think you can make this. Take it one step at a time. And what I was going to say was, if you don't want to put zips in those pockets, don't put zips in the pockets. Just do it, you know, like we did the one on the inside of the bag. Just do that on the outsides. Or put a piece of Velcro there so it's at least secure. But just have one. Have one on the inside of the bag. Or just have one on the inside, one on the outside. You don't have to do what I've done. But what it does, it gives you a nice shape. Gives you a nice style. It shows you different sort of ways of making things. So I'm just coming up to that other set of darts. I'm going to go about an inch away from the dart. So I've got a turning gap of about 4 inches. So there's my start, there's my finish. And obviously you can clip into this and make it really neat. Hopefully I've caught all my edges. We'll see what happens. And then you're just going to pull it all through. So grab that handle. Be a lot easier this time. And yeah, you will struggle a little bit. But that is the foam as well, isn't it? There's a lot going on. It's quite a sturdy sort of bag, really. So let's just push all that out. Again, you've got 2 layers of foam and all the zips and the pockets all going through that little hole. That's why you want it at least 4 inches. Come on, Mr. Bag. See, notice it's a Mr. Bag when I struggle, because I'm trying to be quick. When it's going well, it's, oh, you're so sweet. Nice little lady. Nice, she's a nice bag. When it's going horribly wrong, it's like, rah. Okay, there we go. Let's turn it round the right way. Gosh, sorry guys, it looks like a right crumpled mess, doesn't it? But all of a sudden, it'll spring into action. I've had more calories burnt this evening than all week. Oh dear. Oh, funny. Right, here we go. Look, pushing it out now. Here we go. Look at that. Wow-wee. And obviously you need to press all this. Now, in the one I did, I top stitched all the way around both sides. I do recommend that, because otherwise your lining will always want to pop out. I mean, I haven't pressed it, but it'll always want to pop out. So I will, I'm not going to be able to do this for Winchester, but I will top stitch this so it holds everything in place. And it does make a difference. So I'll just bring those zips into the middle. There we are, made. And once that's had a good press, and when it's been top stitched, you know what? I think we've got a rather super duper bag there. So that was worth all the pain, and I'm sorry it's taken such a long time. Like giving birth, Anne, you're not wrong. Give it a push. Come on. Yes, so although it looks like a struggle, it's probably just because of the foam, and I'm really happy with that, and I'm really loving that the butterflies are on the front of the pockets, and that's a really nice now strong bag to take shopping with you. Get some Christmas goodies in there. I think that's really lovely. Right, so I'm going to go down and have a half glass of wine. Just wanted to show you this. This is what Anne sent me, Anne here. Anne, you were just commenting about giving birth, yes. And little note on the back, and that's absolutely glorious. I love it so much, and that's going to, it's like a big button, isn't it? And that's going to go in my sitting room for over the Christmas period, and then it will go in the box for me to bring out next year, etc., etc. And thank you so much, I really appreciate it. So hopefully you have enjoyed that and you've learned something, and it has made a little bit of sense. And I know it's been going on for so long, so I'm going to leave you to it. I'm so sorry it's taken so long. We've had a few interruptions, haven't we? I'll speak to Mother later. But I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening. I'm going to be busy. Maybe I'll have time to do a Facebook Live over the weekend. You never know. It's always fun, isn't it, when I'm out and about, to have a little bit of a Facebook Live. And thank you so much for putting up with me and watching how this is done. I'd love to see some made, see how you get on, and try and enjoy it. And like I say, you don't have to put the zips in, just make regular pockets. Make sure you put that centre seam down there, and then it's sort of nice and stable. So that's it. Have a lovely evening, everybody, and I'll speak to you all again really, really soon.